Hello everybody, and welcome back as always to the Nonsense Retrospective. I am your host as always, Rick, and joining me equally as always is Dev.
Hey diddly ho, neighborino.
Without further ado, let's get into our starting segment, the Nonsense Asinine Hypotheticals. My one for you this week is, if you have to go into a show, but you have to take the position of one of the characters, which one would it be? And if you want, we can narrow it down to ones that we reviewed.
Oh, I don't want you to narrow it down to things we reviewed, because I've got the perfect answer.
Sure.
I want to be Stunk from Interspecies Reviewers.
Sure.
There is no downsides to that universe.
So you wouldn't want to be Krim and have a greater choice?
I wouldn't want to be Krim because Krim has too big of a dick, and also, he doesn't have any actual skills to protect himself in the universe. He needs to be accompanied by Stunk and the elf dude.
Sure.
Whereas Stunk is actually a fucking badass. It's just that's not the focus of the show, so you rarely see it.
I love how he just literally saves the world behind the scenes at one point, and they just gloss over it.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, the reason why we had so much money before we even started the reviewing biz is we're badass adventurers. But yes, as much as I want to move on to my question, I feel like that's a pretty good one. Do you want to answer it yourself as well, or do you want to move on to mine?
I would probably be Lex Luthor, because all he has to do is not be evil, and he's got a pretty fucking good position.
Absolutely. He's like, it's actually scary, because I think I've mentioned this before. A Reddit post pointed out how Lex Luthor is actually less evil than Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
He treats his staff relatively well. His biggest downfall is he wants to kill and murder Superman. And even then, his reasoning isn't, beyond understanding. It's just, it's incorrect, but you can understand where he's coming from a certain point of view.
Yeah, he's Edelgard.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, he wants to free humanity from the yoke of the thing that they're relying on.
Now, bear in mind, we're talking about certain canons, because in some canons he is just a pure evil piece of shit, but,
Yeah.
But moving on, I do have a question for you, and it's weirdly kinda similar.
Sure.
My question is this. You are granted permission to use any two franchises you want. What two franchises do you pick, and what do you do with them? Do you make a movie? Do you make a video game? What's what?
This is one where, rather than refusing the question, I can't answer it right now, because it's going to take me a lot more thinking to do it.
Does that mean you want me to answer?
Only if you want to.
Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, because duh.
I'm so shocked that those two haven't had a crossover yet.
They can't, because Street Fighter doesn't like blood and gore. That's why Street Fighter and Tekken has happened, but Mortal Kombat so rarely contributes to things that aren't made by NetherRealm already.
Well, I guess Tekken does have the gore, it's just contained within the body. Like, they show the x-rays of bones breaking and everything, but
Nope.
like, the blood don't come out.
No, Tekken doesn't do that, bro.
I'm pretty sure they do. It might be one of the spin-offs where one of the girls that had her own game, and you got to see essentially fatalities, but with serial numbers filed off, where when she does a takedown, you get to see the bones snapping and all that.
Like, you hear the sound effects, and the attacks are quite visceral, but I don't remember them doing a cutaway effect.
So, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of today, Digimon. And normally we'll start with our previous experience, and for me, it's reading about the potential sequel to Tamagotchi. But yeah, what was your previous experience with the series?
I watched Digimon 1 when it came out. I remember watching it when it came out because it was new and interesting and it was a cartoon. It was really weird. A lot of adults or teenagers said it was going to be a Pokemon killer. It wasn't. It was more of it was more like, how you got wrestling and you got WWE as the big corporation, and right now you've got AEW that's the little corporation, but it's not so little that it's insignificant, but it's not so big that it can actually go one-on-one with WWE, because WWE is huge. It's kind of like that. Pokemon is the WWE, Digimon is AEW. And I think that's actually quite a good analogy for the games as well, because Pokemon is like, we're too big to fail, we can be shit, and people will still buy our crap. Whereas Digimon puts a lot of fucking effort, blood, sweat, and tears into everything they do, and their stuff is stellar. But yeah, I watched Digimon from the first cartoon, and I also had like a Digivice type thing, which was kind of like a glorified Tamagotchi.
So, when I came into the show, it was at season 3, so I watched that and then I went backwards. So,
when you say season 3, do you mean the third version of the show, or do you mean season 3 of the first group of kids?
I mean the third set of teens.
So you're talking Gilmon, Renamon, etc.
Yeah, Gilmon and Co., voiced by Steve Bloom.
Still can't fucking believe that.
Like, he's very good at playing against type.
Yeah, certainly.
So, let's go back to season 1. You got a gogglehead and his dinosaur going a mostly light-hearted romp with his friends and the dinosaur's friends through the digital world, which is a decidedly non-computerized in appearance and feel, with only the Pokédex telling us that XYZ natives evolved from XYZ other natives.
I don't think the Pokédex said that. I think their partner Digimon said it.
Oh, okay. Was it? Okay.
Because their Digivices didn't really talk to them.
I thought the Digivice was able to scan things and just give them a bit of information.
Maybe it could. It's been a fucking while, bro.
It's the kind of thing that Izzy would have brought up as a bit of information because he was a nerd.
All of the main group are very much 2D in character.
Yeah.
Like, this is the nerd, this is the coward, this is the token child, this is the hot one, this is the sporty one.
And this is Vegeta.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Vegeta and Goku in this both swap roles depending on the episode and what they need.
Yeah.
I just now remembered something that I read, and I'm sort of shocked because I completely forgot about this and I can't believe I forgot about it. Do you want to hear about the cut fucking content from Digimon Series 1?
Go ahead.
Well, get ready to be squicked. Fucking trigger warning for people. The original storyline was going to be very... Oh, there's no fucking delicate way of wording this. It was going to be very incestuous. The original endgame love interest for the main character was going to be his little sister. And someone in the boardroom very quickly decided, hey, this is not a good idea.
And I'm glad they changed that. So the series handed a lot of creative freedom over to the animation department because there's very little you can do with little evocative LCD blobs without having something to go on. So they gave them designs and said go nuts. Season 1 had an incredibly cheesy dub, as far as I remember, and had some weird moments like when Myotismon spawned another monster from his crotch.
That's not quite what happened. I think you're thinking of its Digivolution, Venom Myotismon, which has a weird dick monster on it, but it doesn't spawn a brand new monster.
Isn't the dick monster a separate person, though?
I don't recall that, but I also don't remember getting past Venom Myotismon in the show. I did fall off Digimon. I didn't even stick to the first season. When I was a poo babby, I was like, I can't be asked to get up early on a Saturday to watch this shit.
But overall, I think it succeeded in establishing a franchise and winning a few fans, even if it was the hipsters that weren't the Pokemon fans, but there were enough of nerds and weebs to want to watch the anime thing, because back then we thought it was just cartoons, but it just so happened to be anime.
Well, again, I was a child when this came out, and I remember watching it as a child, and I can tell you for a fucking fact, every single person who was a fan of Digimon at that age, they all said the same thing. That was, fuck Pokemon, Pokemon sucks, Digimon is the shit. Except they didn't swear because they were poo babbies.
We also had a bunch of kids who went down with Pokemon, up with Digimon. The next thing we had was the movie. They had a little weird segment before the movie started when it was shown in cinemas of Angela Anaconda, which is a weird fucking thing where it was a photograph person and a universe of photograph people having weird, stupid, shitty Canadian adventures. And they went to see the Digimon movie within the Digimon movie, and it was really weird, and it took about 5 minutes of my time, and I want those moments back.
You're never getting them back. But here's the funny thing is, you told me that the other day while you were doing notes for the episode, and I said, what the fuck is Angela Anaconda? And you sent me a picture of her dressed up like the main character, and I went, what the fuck is this weird fever dream?
Yep.
What the fuck? This cannot be real.
Yeah, she digivolved into Angelamon.
Fuck off.
During her own fever dream. She has fever dreams as part of the show where she just imagines things because she's a kid. And then it turns out that everyone's in the wrong fucking cinema, apart from the 3 mean girl nerdy girls and the teacher, who are actually in the cinema to see the shitty French film.
Fair enough. Hey, do you want to talk about how I didn't actually see this film in the cinemas because I wasn't on Digimon at the time? I got to see this film because they gave it away for free with cereal.
Did they?
I think you had to buy like 5 boxes and it was cheaper than buying a DVD or whatever. But here's the catch, right? They didn't give it to you on VHS or DVD. They gave it to you on this weird square rectangle disc thing that you put into your PC. And I remember I looked at this square disc and I went, what? Rectangle in circle? What? Sod's fucking law, it bloody worked. You put it in the fucking disc drive, you put it in, and I went, oh fuck, it works. And then you watched the movie, except it was on your PC, and I was like, wow, PCs are magical.
That was a weird time of our lives where you could actually send away for things from cereal packets. I think they knocked it on the head to stop marketing sugary cereals to kids.
Bear in mind, they gutted Frosties of their sugar because they wanted to sell it as a adult cereal instead of a kid's cereal, and therefore avoid paying as much tax.
Yeah, but they've also still got Tony the fucking Tiger on the front.
They had to fucking get rid of that Twitter account because it kept getting bombarded by horny furries. I'm not even joking. Did you see that?
I think I did, yeah.
And the fucking guy who was in charge of the Tony the Tiger fucking Twitter didn't know what a furry was, so he was responding to a couple.
Oh no. But yeah, the movie was actually 3 short films stitched together. There was like a prologue of what would have happened if Hai and Kari got an Agumon really early on. So they get one really early on, and then they say, oh yeah, this wasn't the one that we got later.
Oh yeah, because it invaded the fucking real world, didn't it? As a Greymon.
Yeah, it was a massive Greymon.
And everyone, all the Digidestined, just so happened to see it, and that's why they ended up being Digidestined.
Yep.
What a load of fucking shit.
The middle movie, which was the first actual plot that wasn't a prologue, was all about them foiling a missile attack.
Yeah, that's the Diaboromon one, I believe.
Yeah, Diaboromon. I think that might have been the first time we see Omnimon, or it might not have been.
I definitely remember Omnimon first making a debut in the movie. I remember it being a big fucking deal.
Yeah, that's when you get the fusion between Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon. They both become arms on a super big super paladin. That was the thing that happened in the middle of the movie, and then the end of the movie was our first look at the Season 2 guys, because in the UK, the movie came out before Season 2.
Now here's the thing, you're telling me this, and I don't recall this part of the film. I just remember the first two segments.
Yeah, so they have like a little time skip, and you've got the Season 2 guys. I think they do a bit of Digi-Egg stuff to like preview that, yeah, they have to use Digi-Eggs for a bit. Another bit of a preview to Season 3.
Yeah, it's Aunt Leomon, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got the two bunnies, Terriermon and Lopmon. Like, one of them was meant to be a dog, the other one's meant to be a bunny.
Fuck off.
Yeah, how's the thing? They both look the fucking same.
They're both the same. One's brown, one's green, one's got one horn, the other's got three.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only difference between the two.
Yeah, apparently Terriermon evolves into, like, more and more doggy things, and Lopmon evolves into more and more bunny things.
Yeah, sort of, I guess. But Gargomon and Mega Gargomon and Rapidmon looks more like a bunny than anything else. It's just a metal bunny.
Yeah, Rapidmon looks more like a bunny, and then Mega Gargomon has, like, the dog faces on it.
Yeah, sure, but it's more robot than dog.
I think they also max out at ultimate level in that movie, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. We want to show off the middle evolutions, which never get a chance to shine once Megas get introduced, you know?
I think the one time they do get to shine is in Season 2.
Because it's a big fucking deal because of the armor Digivolution bullshit.
Yeah, Digivolution is disabled for a long time in Season 2. So we got a new cast. We got a new Gogglehead, new dinosaur, a human antagonist for the first time.
Emperor Ken.
Ken Ichijoji, the Digimon Kaiser. In every other region apart from English, he was the Digimon Kaiser, which I think is a really cool name.
But people were like, oh no, Germany. Even though the Kaiser wasn't the bad one, it was the Führer that was the bad one, but hey ho.
Yeah.
We won't get into fucking politics for the World Wars in our fun, happy Digimon safe space.
Yep. So, the nice little callback to Season 1 is that the kids from Season 1, Kari and TK, are returning characters for Season 2, and they're the same age as the other characters in Season 2, but because they've been doing Digimon for a long time, they're the most experienced ones. So it's a nice little thing where they're the ones that other people learn from, but also they're not the leader to a degree, because it has to be the Gogglehead.
Yeah. But they also talk how, hey, guess what? If the original Digidestined were here, these guys wouldn't be shit. Which is also nice, because if you watch the first show, and you watch the second show, and you're like, oh, it's new guys? But the show's like, no, but those guys were badasses, and these guys ain't, so it's fine.
Yeah, they were literal children, and their Digimon carried them.
That's always the way. It should be the way.
Oh yeah, totally. If you've got someone who's too young, then the Digimon should be carrying you. And if you're old enough to be a tamer rather than...
I believe they're not called tamers in the show. They're always called Digidestined.
Okay, yeah. I'm conflating it with Season 3 where they actually are called tamers.
That might be where they start calling people Digimon tamers, but 1 and 2 they were called Digidestined because their destiny is to be with Digimon?
Yep.
As an aside, aren't you a woman, yes or no?
If she takes the hat off, yes.
No, the hat must stay on.
Okay, maybe not then. I have to wait till she gets a higher form, and then she's a bigger woman.
No, her higher form is she becomes a fluffy pink dragon, so fuck you.
Only in that evolutionary line. She's also got a Lady Seraphim on her.
I think you're thinking of Ophanimon, but even then, she doesn't look as sexual as Anja Woman.
Well, there's always Lady Devimon.
She will kill you!
I mean, yeah. Soul Harley Quinn, but you know.
That's one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't sleep with Harley Quinn, because I like life a bit too much. Even Constantine, who will fuck anything, doesn't want to fuck Harley Quinn, because shit be cray. Dude, you've not seen the fucking show, but it's awesome. There's a moment where he leads Raven and Superman to the Suicide Squad's HQ, because they need their help for some reason. I forget the exact specifics. But he just goes, bloody hell, that's my ex. And Raven just looks at Harley Quinn, and then looks at Constantine and just goes, Harley Quinn, ugh. And Constantine goes, what, do I look bloody mad? And then it cuts to King Shark giving him a wink.
That's always a good gag.
And Constantine gets all bashful and embarrassed, and it's just like, yeah, that's cute. But yeah, sorry for that tangent, but it had to be said.
So yeah, Ken is a really good antagonist because it shows how a person who's treating the Digimon world as a game can actually go off the rails. It's how people play Undertale on Genocide, except like he's not realizing that these creatures actually have thoughts, feelings, and the other people that are in there are actually people.
That's the problem that comes up in a lot of the games when you meet other humans, in that it's like, oh, you're abusing your Digimon, but they're like, they don't realize it's a thing to abuse, because as far as they're aware, Digimon are literally just digital program tools.
They are, but they also have souls.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
But after he's defeated, he gets a different haircut, his hair stops being frizzy, and he becomes the Green Ranger of the group for the second half of the series.
I do like his design when he does his face turn.
His hair goes all straight. After he is defeated, Digivolution is re-enabled, so until then, they have have to use Digi-Eggs to assume a pseudo-champion form.
Called Armor Digivolution.
So the other thing they do is they accentuate how cool champions are by the way that they reach Ultimate in this series is they fuse two champions together by DNA Digivolution.
Yeah, but that also completely dicks over the games.
It does, yeah.
Hey, you can get this Digimon by fusing these two Digimon, which is how they did it in the show, or you can just Digivolve to it from another Digimon.
Or even the same one. Like, apparently you can just evolve to Pyildramon from, like, XVmon.
Nope.
Can you not?
I can't speak for the Worldish ones, because Fusion Digimon Digivolution's weird on those, but in the RPGs, you always need to fuse XVmon and Stingmon to get Pyildramon.
Sure.
And you evolve that to get Pyildramon, and then you can switch between the two modes, but that's finicky.
Okay. Yeah. The Imperial Dramon is the only one that they show in the series as a Mega, but the other ones also get a Mega in the movies. And as far as I'm aware, Imperial Dramon gets a fighter mode and a paladin mode, but the paladin mode I think is also movie only.
Maybe so, but it's always included in every single game.
Yeah.
And I swear the paladin mode is its more bestial form, and it just looks like a fucking generic dragon and boring.
Yeah, the boring dragon is what they use as transport. That's how boring it is. They turn it into a fucking car. But also the final villain of Season 2 is a human possessed by the spirit of Myotismon, and he becomes Marlo Myotismon. That's the thing that happens. And I think Marlo Myotismon just kills Team Rocket. There's Arukenimon and Mummymon are basically the Team Rocket of Season 2, and they go around doing stuff, like finding black spears and turning them into, like, shitty Digimon that are not real. And, yeah, when Marlo Myotismon awakens, he's like, fuck you too. He just literally kills Arukenimon, and Mummimon's like, you killed her! I loved her! He don't last long either, I don't think. It's a show that the villain is bad by killing some other villains.
Well, it's a trope, isn't it? Like, a lot of things don't want to kill off good guys, so the best way to make the new villain look like hot shit is to have a villain before that villain have the main good guy team struggle against said villain, but still manage to beat them just so much so they run away, and then when they go to their boss or to the new villain just kills them in a heartbeat without even fucking blinking, and it's like, oh shit, this guy's a real problem. Look how easily he beat the dude we had so much problems with.
Yeah, it's like Loki being the main villain of Avengers 1, and then when we come to Avengers 3, Thanos just snaps his neck.
Allegedly.
But yeah, Season 3 is where I came in. We got a new Gogglehead and a new dinosaur, and this time it's an OC-in story. So the main character, he likes Digimon, and he doodles his own OC, and when, I don't know how they got the Digivices, I've forgotten, but he swipes the card that you made in the Digivice, and then it turns real. It just creates a Digimon out of nothing, and he doesn't know why he's a Digimon, he doesn't know why he's real, he just accepts it, and he calls his master Takatomon, which is really cute.
The unfortunate reality is, my knowledge drops off here, basically.
Sure, this is the series that has Renamon, which is...
Furry bait.
Yeah, it's furry bait. It's female equivalent of Lucario in terms of monster game furry bait, and the other two mons that are worth mentioning are Impmon, who is... He's kind of a Team Rocket for most of the time, but then he becomes a credible threat later on, and Kalumon, who's basically a living MacGuffin who glows every time Digivolution happens. They do eventually go into the digital world and they spend like the second half of the season there, apart from like the last few episodes where they come back out again and there's another threat.
Do remember them briefly meeting Digimon and his hag wife.
I think they've even got a village of Digimons.
Digimon's always been presented as pretty unique.
Oh, it has a thing. I think he's meant to evolve from something and they show the village of the thing that he evolves from.
Maybe so then, maybe so.
But they do have another thing where they have a couple of random little other people. Like, they've got Jerry, is a like semi-autistic little girl with a hand puppet, and she gets Leomon. And if people have seen these series, they know that Leomon always dies. And this time it's done in a bit of a heartbreaking way, because Leomon this time is like belongs to one of the kids and is protecting one of the kids. And when Impmon makes a deal with the devil and becomes Beelzemon, he just tests out his new power on Leomon, and oh yeah, Mega versus Champion. So Leomon gets iced by a former joke villain, and that's what cements him as an actual villain. But by the same token, when Jerry falls into a depression and becomes absorbed by the final villain, which is... It's a weaponized antivirus, which sees Digimon and reality as a virus, and it wants to destroy it all, because that's what its programming is. It absorbs Jerry and wants... And it sees her nihilism and depression as something that it can use and feed off of, and the D-Reaper becomes the J-Reaper, because Jerry's in it now. The way that she gets rescued is when Beelzemon has his face turn, breaks through everything using the power given to him by some gimpy little kids, which become his tamers, because that's when he's accepted humanity humanity as something to get along with rather than to suppress under his badass booty heel. And he tries to get through to her and eventually does get through to her that he has had his face turn, and if he can change, then she can grow as a person as well, even without Leomon. So now we're going to move on to the games. The games caught up from being like self-contained little LCD landfill to running on consoles, and we had a lot of PlayStation 1 games.
We did. We had an obscene amount. PS1 was one of those magical eras where a bunch of people who didn't want to play ball with Nintendo just went, well, fuck it, we'll do stuff for Sony. Also, CD-ROMs are better than cartridges.
Yeah, the weird thing with the PlayStation was you could have a weird hybrid of graphics where the actual graphics the PlayStation could make were shit, and everyone knew that, but also you could have photos and CGI.
Yeah, although Digimon didn't really use those. But yes, can we start with Digimon World 1?
Yes, it was weird, but oddly close to a 3D representation of what the LCD experience was.
It was not a fun game. A lot of the game was spend time in the gym until your Digimon's ready to fight things, and then train by fighting things. But when you fight things, you don't get XP, you get additional stat points, but you don't get to choose where they are, and they're also super small. A better use of your actual in real life time is the gym equipment, but to get the best stats, you'd actually grind Digimon, but that takes ages.
When you raise your Mon, it permanently evolves based on your stats and treatment, as opposed to in the games where they just evolve a little bit temporarily and then just go back to their rookie form.
Yeah, as a child playing Digimon World, I would end up with Numemon more times than not.
The number of times you just fuck up and end up with the turd.
No, you have to purposefully fuck up to get the turd, because the turd, you only get the turd by shitting too much on the floor.
Okay, and then you eat the poo.
That's the only way to clean up, is to have either a Numemon or a Sukamon and have them eat their previously shitted shits. Oh, I tell a lie, you can also become Sukamon by talking to King Sukamon and he'd magically turn you into a Sukamon.
Okay, isn't Sukamon basically the really powerful one of Numemon?
No,
okay.
No, Sukamon is the shit Digimon, the Digimon that is the shape of a turd and yellow. Numemon is a different line where it's just a green slime.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was Numemon or Sukamon, but you need one of them to get the Monzemon.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of, the one that's like a circle.
Nope.
Okay, I was thinking something else then. Oh.
Monzemon is a giant teddy bear. You might be thinking of Mamemon, that's just a circle with legs and arms. There's fucking hundreds of Mamemons now, but back then there was only the two.
Yeah, and I think it evolves from one of the shit ones.
I believe it evolves from Nanimon, which is just a bomb with human skin and a beard and glasses, and it's grotesque.
But yeah, when your Digimon dies, it gets reborn and you can start again.
Yeah, and you get to choose the Digi-Egg, and depending on how good you are, depends on how much stats it inherits. Digimon World 1 was a fucking weird game. We'll leave it at that.
Digimon World 2 is your unicorn game that you keep looking for.
It is. Just emulate it, but I can never get emulators for the PS1 to goddamn work, and it's even harder to get it to work with a goddamn controller, so...
I'll tell you why you've not found it. It's because it wasn't released in the UK.
But I played that game as a child.
You might have played someone's chipped copy.
No, I got it from a rental place.
Huh, weird. But it was a 3D dungeon crawler with a full party of Digimon.
Because I remember that. Because I remember playing that first level and I went, this isn't Digimon. This isn't like Digimon World 1. I don't like it. Send it back to the fucking rental place. Never played it again.
And then when you get older, you realise this is how JRPGs actually are.
There was something there. That they had teams you could choose from. You could choose a team and sign up with them, and you could start with a Demi-Devimon or another equally turd Digimon but had a cool design. And I was like, I want to go back and experience that.
Yep.
But yeah, that might explain why I've never actually found a copy in the UK if it was a mainly US release.
Yeah. So, because all of our experience is the time that you rented it...
We'll move on to Digimon World 3, or as it's called over here, Digimon World 2003.
Yeah, so it was like a 2D map and 3D battle thing, where, again, you got a party of Digimon. It's a lot more JRPG than Digimon World, just like Digimon World 2 was, but this time you don't really dungeon crawl, you just walk around like you would on any other Pokemon / any old JRPG map. And it had a couple of previews of the Season 4 Digimon before Season 4 came out.
Yeah, you had the little monkey, you had the little bear, and third one was like a weird not pirate, it was a little weird samurai dude.
Yeah, little kendo guy. He got these like two scimitars, and then he became like a Knightmon, and then a lady super knight.
Dude, I don't know, I never got far enough in that game to get to Megas.
No, me either. Like, I think the highest I got was an Ultimate, and even that was a DNA Digivolution, where, you lose 2 party members to get one good one.
DNA Digivolution was weird in that game as well, because you could have the flash ones, where you'd switch out a party member. Even though you had 3 party members, guys, you can only have one out on the field at a time.
Yeah.
So you tag out to a different party member, and you'd have the DNA Digivolution option, which means you do a very cool DNA Digivolution attack as you tagged out, but then you'd have the Digimon you swap to as your Digimon, not the DNA one.
Sweet.
You also had a limit gauge, which would turn you into your Mega Evolution for an attack.
Yeah. I remember it was really difficult to get Paladin mode Imperial Dramon, but it was like the best character in that game.
Probably. It would have been the most recent DNA Mega.
Yeah. But then that's basically as far as I got in that game. Rumble Arena was one that I spent a lot of time with. It was a 2D fighter that was incredibly and horribly imbalanced.
I don't know if it was imbalanced. You just had to know the cheese moves.
Yeah, you get Imp Mount and you press triangle and you win.
You know, I used to use Agumon because I was a very boring child. I liked the main character's thing because it's the main character, therefore it's the best.
Yeah, this is one where you could Digivolve mid-fight, and all Digivolutions were counted as Megas.
Well, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I vaguely remember the game mechanic being sort of Smash Bro-esque in that one of the main strategies was usually just, hey, fucking block and dodge until you get the fucking counters to get your Digivolution meter up, and then Digivolve, and then that's when the real fight begins.
And if you're not evolved, you count as a rookie, including Gatomon.
Gatomon gets classed as a rookie more often than not anyway, because people are stupid.
Yeah, because people forget what she was in Season 1.
In the games, she's a champion, but that's because they have to include the rookie form for her, and her rookie form's a terrible design. It looks like a baby form.
Yeah.
They fucked up, basically, because everything about the Anja Woman line looks like it should be the form beforehand, except for when you get to Mega level, obviously.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, after Rumble Arena, I also stopped following the games for a while. There was some Digimon World DS games.
Before we get to that, another PS1 spin-off game was specifically the trading card game. Didn't work anything like the actual trading card game they did release, but it was a fun distraction, and that's another one of my unicorn games, but I refuse to pay 40 quid for it, so it will never be mine.
Yeah, fair enough. So even if you do run into it at a convention, then
There's always a copy in every single video game stall in conventions. But yes, they did go on to the next games I also played with the DS games. I didn't touch any PS2 games for Digimon. I think the only PS2 games there were the future Rumble Arenas anyway, and they got really weird with it.
Yeah, they had some weird Rumble Arenas. I think there was one on the GameCube as well, where it was basically the same as the first one, but you had 3 stages, but there were fewer Digimon to start with. So there were the same number of playable characters total, but felt like there were fewer, because, yeah, there were fewer things to select, but more things that you could be in battle. Yeah, the DS games, I didn't play very many of them.
They decided they wanted to become more like Pokemon, and they released 2 versions of everything.
Yeah, they did.
The version you played didn't really change much of the game. It just changed what team you saw the game from. But the missions were the same order. You didn't have exclusive Digimon or anything, which is kind of to the game's credit. It basically turned into, hey, do you want to be orange or do you want to be purple?
Yeah, I do actually appreciate that. It's like, would you rather join Team Aqua or Team Magma? Like, they're both idiots, but...
But it's very odd, because the Digivolution system in those games, they decided to change it a little bit, in that the way you Digivolve was, instead of getting certain stats to certain fields and then choosing your branch that way, every single Digimon would give you, let's say you beat an Agumon, you'd get 500 experience, right? But you'd also get given 250 Dragon experience and 250 Fire experience. So the base experience is what determines your level. The other experience is just stuff you'd collect, and depending on how much experience you had there, depends on what Digivolution options you'd have.
That's actually neat.
But it's a pain in the dick.
Yeah. It's like Final Fantasy 2. Interesting concept, executed poorly.
Oh, so 8. 8, where you discover that actively leveling up is a hindrance.
Yeah, and using magic it just makes you weaker.
There was a few DS games, and they all followed the RPG formula. They were interesting enough, but they were never interesting enough for me to beat them, so take that for what you will.
Sure. What I want to move on to now is the more recent ones that I know you've played.
Oh, yes. Cyber Sleuth is a good one, but we'll hold off on that in favour of us talking about Next Order, or New Order, I should say, I think.
I think it is Next Order.
Which, as far as I'm aware, is a PS4 exclusive.
Probably the PS Vita as well?
Well, that's still Sony, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not available on Steam, it's not available on Xbox, and it's definitely not available on Switch.
But it's in the vein of Digimon World 1.
It is a quasi-sequel. The protagonist from Digimon World 1 shows up in Digimon World Next Order as an ally.
That's really nice.
It is. I flipped my shit. I got to the stage where they introduced a character. I went, no. And I looked at the character for like a minute, and I went, that's the fucking guy from Digimon World 1. Granted, when he was in Digimon World 1, he was like a bundle of pixels and looked shit.
Yep.
So it's a bit hard to tell. But yeah, that's definitely who that dude is meant to be.
Yeah.
And that solidified the game as an actual sequel, because they started bringing up plot points from Digimon World 1.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting. It blew my fragile little mind. But yeah, it is basically just Digimon World 1 again, except the gimmick is now you have 2 Digimon under your control, which good because it gives a bit more strategy. Also, they revamped the training system, so it's not complete fucking shit.
But the next one we move on to is Cyber Sleuth.
Cyber Sleuth is such a weird little beast. The gameplay is awesome. The story in the original base game, Cyber Sleuth, is fucking weird, and they do some weird decisions with the way they decided to do dialogue. They gave a character who is from, like, Western Japan or Eastern Japan, I forget which one, where they've got the quote-unquote funny accents.
Kansai.
Oh, there you go. In order to translate that into English, they gave the character a fucking southern accent from the States. It's a fucking proper yokel, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
We know the game's in fucking Japan, so why the fuck is this person speaking like they're from Georgia?
They do that. They make the Kansai people Texans.
But this game isn't fully voiced, so it's in the text boxes written out as if it's yokel talk, and it fucking sucks.
Y'all.
Yeah, it don't translate well to text. But yeah, apart from that, like, the story's interesting. It's got a few fucking plot holes. But we got Hacker's Memory, I feel like it was like 2 years afterwards, and instead of being a sequel, it's a side story.
Yeah. Didn't they release them both as a collector's edition, and it kind of fixed a lot of the back and forth?
You can't buy the game individually now. Every time you buy the game, it says a twin pack.
Sure. On the PC and the Switch, it's the twin pack.
And Chapter 1 of Hacker's Memory happens at the same time as Chapter 1 of Cyber Sleuth. So
that's really neat, actually.
yeah, you can literally bounce between the two and experience the story side by side if you so choose. Obviously, I didn't do that. I originally bought the game as a sequel on the PS4. These are 2 Digimon games I've beaten now. I've not done the post game because I can't be bothered. It's good. It fills in a lot of blanks, but it also has its own story to tell. Like, it's its own self-contained thing. But there'll be an instance where, like, I believe it's like Chapter 3, where in Cyber Sleuth you beat a boss. That boss is super difficult, at least at the time when you encounter it in the game, because your Digimon are still, like, maybe champion level if you're lucky. The boss is a Growlmon.
Okay.
And the reason why that boss is super difficult is you're fighting it fresh. Wait, no, I got this the wrong way around. It's more difficult in Hacker's Memory because you fight it for the first time, and then you follow it and you chase it to where it gets fought in Cyber Sleuth, and it's like, oh, looks like someone beat us to the punch, and the protagonist from the first game runs past you. And what it is the reason why the boss is super easy in Cyber Sleuth is because the boss has already been beaten once in Hacker's Memory.
And he's licking his wounds already.
Yeah, it's great. It's like little shit like that. And you meet the same characters, or, you know, there's a bunch of new characters, but you meet some of the same characters, find out what they're doing while the main character's doing his shit in Cyber Sleuth, or her shit. The character can be either a male or female, depending on, you know, what you want.
Sure.
And also, something the game does, which I appreciate, is the game has a canon name for the characters. So if you just leave the name blank, they get their fucking canon names. You don't have to fucking do the Persona shit of going, oh, what do I call the dude so it doesn't sound stupid?
Yeah, so everyone else has a Japanese-sounding name, so you got to come up with some kind of Japanese-sounding name.
Except when I played Persona 4 the first time, I didn't really realise that's how they were going to go with it for some reason, so I called myself my name, and it's like, oh, Devon-san. I'm like, what? That's weird.
Yep. I spent so much time in Persona 5 coming up with a weird Japanese name, and I ended up with Imoyami, which is dark potato.
But yeah, I can gush about Cyber Sleuth all day, but I think it's best that we probably wrap things up.
There is one little tidbit, though. It came out around the same time that Pokemon Sword and Shield were coming out, wasn't it?
Yeah, we even mentioned it in the Sword and Shield episode of the podcast, I believe.
Yeah, that people were moaning about Dexit and how they were trying to get out of putting more Pokemon in by saying, oh, it takes time to do all of these 3D models, and yet this tiny little company and tiny little development team managed to do all the Digimon that have ever existed.
Well, here's the thing as well. Not only that, every single Digimon has a unique attack animation. Every Digimon has its special move. Sometimes they've got 2 of their, like, a fan favourite Mega, like Omnimon or Impyodramon. But the way they get around that is every Digimon gets 1. Everyone gets 1. And then the rest are just generic fucking RPG moves.
Throwing a fireball and what have you. Oh, this fireball is ice-flavoured.
Also, I don't know about you, Rick. I turn animations off in RPGs because they just take up time.
If I've got the option to do the thing, I will make it so that it shows it the first time you see it and then never again, which is, I think it's like the normal thing in Disgaea these days.
It wasn't an option in Disgaea 6, it's just on or off.
Okay. I think in most Disgaeas it's like between 2 and 6. When it's off or show first, it's you see it for the first time, and then after you've seen it once, it's just skip. There is another little tidbit. Hacker's Memory, it performed worse than expected, but it was still the best-selling game on the Vita for that year, which says something about the PS Vita.
No one gives a fuck about Sony handhelds.
I do. I really like them.
Okay, but they stopped doing them, so go cry in your corner, baby.
Yeah.
If they supported those consoles as thoroughly as they should have done, I'm sure it would have done fine. But the problem is they always focus on their regular consoles. And fair enough, that's the type of company they are.
Yeah, they become known as like a JRPG machine.
Pretty much. I remember for a long time people flagged it as the hentai machine, except, without the hentai scenes.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of visual novels that are exclusive to the Vita.
The next thing we're going to look forward to is Survive.
Yes, we know so little and yet are anticipating so much. They've released one trailer and the art style looks beautiful and the gameplay looks kind of turn-based Disgaea-ish, so I'm eager to see what the fuck they're doing.
I've not even seen the trailer.
The trailer has a lovely art style and the very brief glimpse of gameplay, it looks grid-based, turn-based combat.
That has got my pee-pee hard.
It's interesting. It's certainly something Digimon hasn't done before. They kind of have a battle system mode like that in Hacker's Memory, but it's certainly not the main focus. It's more of a side thing, so I'm interested.
So, I think we're going to bring this to a close. I'm going to ask you, what is your favourite moment of the Digimon series?
Is the heartbreaking finale of Hacker's Memory. I don't want to spoil it for people, but I was literally crying. I say a lot of times where things have made me sad and I kind of tear up, but I don't cry, but Hacker's Memory made me cry. It fucking got me. So what about you?
It's going to be a bit loosey-goosey, but for anyone, I'm going to say the first time you saw a Digivolution.
So yeah, that fucking 2 fucking pixels of animation on that Tamagotchi device, eh, Rick?
For me, I think it was actually Renamon becoming Cubimon, because I came in at just a random weird episode early on in Series 3.
Yeah, it's a weird one. You got to be careful how you word that.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, in the UK, we refer to season and series as the same kind of thing, whereas in America, a different series is a different show. But calling it Series 3 is actually apt for this, because the first group actually had multiple seasons. So for me, it was Renamon digivolving into Cubimon. And who would you say is your MVP?
I think just based on the fact that the design has held up and it tends to be a villain, or at least a high-level enemy in most things since, I'll give it to Machinedramon.
Sure.
But, there's too much shit to pick a definitive MVP, so because that shows up in a lot of things, and it's always a badass, even though it does eventually get toppled, Machinedramon for me. So, what about you? What MVP?
I would say Myotismon, because he drives so much of the plot. Like, he's basically the man behind the man in Season 1 for a lot of the time, and in Season 2, it's revealed that he was the man behind the man all of the time, but he only shows up at the end. Even though he's a bit of a jobber, and he goes down pretty easily, the fact that he has had that many fingers in that many pies makes him that much more interesting to me.
I get you on that front. It's weird, isn't it? But, I don't remember Myotismon being that big of a deal, so I kind of gloss over him a lot. But I get you. I feel you.
It's one of those, I also don't think he was that big of a deal, but the fact that he stretches over 2 series makes him that much more credible than anyone else to my degree. I could just as easily say Digimon.
I think he's in it even less.
And I know, right? I don't feel that much of a connection to him, whereas Myotismon was like, this is a thing that's a roadblock, whereas Digimon was like a helping hand. I think that's going to be it from us. So join us again on Nonsense Retrospective. And if you want to get in contact with us, you've got the YouTube comments, and if you are with us on Anchor, you have our email address at nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. Once again, that's nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. And it's going to be goodbye from me.
And it is a fond farewell from me.